And Dale says, I really want Ten Hag to be locked in and start thinking about a successful team for the future like everybody does. And I think this is a great point by Dale. Thank you very much for the kicking off with the super chats as well. But I think this is it. It's not the start of the season, but this game has to be the start of something new. We've seen Casemiro and Martinez back in training. We know that Mount and Maguire are not far away. And if the results continue to be bad when those players come back, he's run out of road. You know, he's at the cliff edge, basically. He has to, you know, he needs a car that can fly otherwise, because this is the end of the road. His only chance of turning this around is that the thing that he's been going on about actually happens. When I get my players back, this is when we'll start to perform consistently, and we've got to start performing consistently. But this game, the FA Cup, is so big for Manchester United. In a way, I'm excited about it because the standards have dropped so far, and I'll put my hand up and say that. The standards have dropped so far that the FA Cup is our Champions League. It's our top four. It's the only thing we've got, really. I think top four is impossible for us to get hold of now, but the FA Cup becomes massive for us, and we have to take it seriously. Now, Wigan away in the FA Cup is winnable and should be winnable. But what I want to say from the very off is, I know nothing about Wigan. I drove into Wigan once by mistake, and it was a bit like going on a ghost train. You just never knew what was going to jump out from the shadows. Wigan, there's a place called Wigan Pier. It's landlocked. What's that all about? I mean, look, with all due respect to Wigan, I've only visited once, and it was by accident, which says a lot. And they are a League One side, not far off relegation. So Dale's predicting a 3-0 win for us. Any comment on the Regwell on loan being terminated, says Alvin. I'll certainly talk about that in a moment. But look, Wigan should be beatable. But what I will say is that they're a League One side. They drew against Barnsley away in their last game. Barnsley are in the playoff positions. And they will work ridiculously hard. And what are two things that United struggle with? Playing away from home and teams that work really hard with a low block. They'll play a low block, they're away from home, and they'll work really, really hard. So Manchester United are not going to have it easy. It's that whole situation again, isn't it? Where we need to score first and we need to score early just to calm the nerves of the team. This has to be a win. This has to be the start of something. With Spurs coming up very, very close after it in the league, this has to be the start of something. So the team I've gone with, I think Binder has to start this game. I've got no idea what this is all about if Binder doesn't play. And I completely agree with you with Bay, who says Binder's got to play. There's this ridiculous scenario where Onana is going to stay and play against Spurs and then he's going to fly out and play for Cameroon the next day. Embarrassing. It's an embarrassing way to run a football club, to have your goalkeeper playing 2 games in 2 days. It's desperate. You know, the pressure that puts on Onana against Spurs is incredible, because he really shouldn't be playing that game, but he is. And let's hope he has a good game. But the injury risk to me as well is massive. But Binder has to play this game. Like, everybody will be playing their reserve goalkeeper. Ramsdale will play for Arsenal tomorrow. Pep will use their reserve goalkeeper. We've not given a minute to a brand new signing. I find it incredible. We've not given 1 minute to a brand new signing. He's got to play in this game. But you know what? I've got a feeling he'll pick Onana. I really do. I think he'll pick Onana. But Binder for me has to play in this game. I don't know whether Luke Shaw's back, so I've put him at left back. If he's not back, you put Delo there and you put Wan-Bissaka at right back. Evans and Varane at centre back have done very well. And we've got to take this seriously, so they've got to play. I would play Amrabat in the holding midfield if he's available. He's had a knock. He might have gone to the AFCON. We don't know. But if he's available, I would play Amrabat. Then you can put Mainu in the 8, because this is where I want to see Mainu play. And Casemiro could be back soon. So I'd start transitioning Mainu to the 8 position. And I'd have Amrabat at 6, Bruno at 10. And then I want to see that front 3 again. I want to see the front 3 that we saw against Villa. And it might just be a glimpse, because Villa played a ridiculously high line. And it suits, Rashford and Garnacho and Højlund to run in behind. But you've got to go back to Rashford on the left, Højlund up front, and Garnacho on the right. I want to see that again. So that's the team I would go with. I'm absolutely convinced he will pick Scott McTominay. And it wouldn't be me talking about United if I didn't mention McTominay. And I think that, as I said at the start of the video, this needs to be the start of a new era for Ten Hag. Now, if Sir David Brailsford or Sir Jim Radcliffe or anybody else support Manchester United, they must have eyes. And if they've got eyes, they must know Scott McTominay's not good enough. And if they're not gonna pull him up and say, why do you keep picking Scott McTominay? I'd almost say this: if Sir Jim Radcliffe thinks McTominay's good enough, we're fucked. Because he should be calling Ten Hag into the office and saying, you lost the game against Forest because you brought him on. He ain't good enough, Eric. Like, if you're going to keep picking him, you're going to get the sack. But I think he will. I think he will. So, and then I don't think it will be a new start, because if he keeps picking McTominay in the midfield, it's not going to work. Now, the funny thing is, he'll probably score. This is exactly the sort of game that McTominay will score in. And he'll live off it for the next year, because that's what the pro-McTominay camp do. They talk about 1 goal against, or 2 goals against Brentford, or the goal against Sheffield United, and they live off that forever. And he probably will score in this game, but he's got to start transitioning away from that. His best midfield 3 is Casemiro, Mainu, and Bruno. That's his best midfield 3. Start playing it. Now, if Amrabat's not available, I'll put Mainu at holding midfield. I'll play Eriksen and Bruno. But I just won't start McTominay. But I think he will pick him, because I think Erik ten Hag's quite stubborn. And as we've seen with the goalkeeper, and keeping Onana for as long as possible and not trusting Binder, I think he'll play McTominay in this game, because he thinks if he scores, he can go, I told you so, I've been right to pick him, even though it's cost us loads of games, I've been right. So I think he probably will pick McTominay, but he's got to start transitioning towards the team that's going to keep him in a job. And the team that's going to keep him in a job is replacing Evans with Martinez and replacing Amrabat with Casemiro. And that becomes his best team for me. It's 2 players away from his best team. Casemiro for Amrabat, Martinez for Evans. So pick your best team. You start putting McTominay in there, you're not picking your best team. Simple as that. Coco's Revenge says, I just watched your video on VAR. Great video, but the issue also falls with referees to use more common sense when looking at the screen. I just think turn it off if you've not seen that on That's Football. But thank you very much for your super chat, Coco. And why are you so convinced that McTominay is going to be played, says Merck. Why are you so convinced that he won't be played? I mean, it just seems to be the story of the last few years. Afternoon to Beth, who's in the chat. Sir Jim isn't a manager, says Beth, who's in the chat. Well, no, he's not, Beth. But you know what? If you were doing a show on the United Stand and you said stuff like, let's play Onana up front, I would obviously send you a WhatsApp and say, are you okay? Do you want to have a chat? Because that's my responsibility as part of the United Stand team. And that's what I'm saying. If Ten Hag keeps picking McTominay, Sir Jim Radcliffe needs to have a word with him and say, stop it. Stop it now, or I'm going to sack you. Simple as that. Goldbridge, that's the end of the clip. I'm sure you enjoyed it. In fact, I bet that's the best clip you've ever watched. So there's no reason not to subscribe to the channel, click the bell icon so you never miss a clip again. In fact, smash a like on the video, because we all know only legends like videos, and you are all legends. So please smash a like on the video, and we will see you again on the next one. Thank you very much for watching, as always.